Hello everyone, I am Indu Mahin and welcome back to another session of Python Pandas DataFrame. Today we will explore the key attributes of DataFrame. Let's get started. DataFrame attributes. What's a DataFrame? A DataFrame is a two-dimensional Pandas data structure, right? And it consists of columns and rows. So a DataFrame is a 2D data structure, much like an Excel sheet, where rows and columns store data. Attributes which provides essential information about the data frame, making it easier to analyze and manipulate data. Here is a data frame. This data frame is created by passing the object dictionary of list. This is a dictionary and the value of the dictionary. Values of the dictionaries are in the form of a list. So this is dictionary of list. So what will be the column index here? The keys of the dictionary, that is name and age. And what about the row index? Here we have explicitly passed the row index E1 and E2. So that will be the row index. And we created the data frame. Now the first attribute is index attribute. It displays the index label of the data frame. Index attribute display the index labels of the data frame. See, this is our data frame. So which are the index labels? E1 and E2. df.index returns this object index E1, E2. dtype is object. Next one is df.columns. df.columns returns the column labels of the data frame. Which are the column labels here? Name and age. That will be returned. df.columns. Next is df.values. It returns the data in the form of a numpy array. df.values, it returns the data in the form of a numpy array. So if the question is to convert a data frame to numpy array, which attribute is used? The answer is values attribute. So when we print the values, df.values, what will be printed? The data frame will be printed in the form of a numpy array. Next is df.axis. For a data frame, two axes are there. Which are they? Axis 0 and axis 1. Row label that represents axis 0 and column axis 1. So all the row index and column index will be printed by using this attribute. Print df.axis. Index, that is first one is row index E1, E2. Next one is column index name and age. Next is df.dtypes. The data types of each column will be printed. Shows the data type of each column. This is our data frame. And which are the different columns? Name and age. See, for name, what is the data type? Object. For age, what is the data type? Int64. That will be printed in the form of a series. That's where this dtype is here. Dtype is object. Next, df.size. It returns an integer, which is the number of elements, number of data in the data frame. How many elements are here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. So df.size returns the number of elements in the data frame. Here it is 4, so we'll get the output 4. df.shape. What is shape attribute of series? It returns a tuple, right, with number of elements in the series. Here also it returns a tuple, but in the tuple 2 elements will be there. First one is the number of rows, second one is the number of columns. Here we have 2 columns and 2 rows, so it will return 2, 2. Suppose we had here 3 rows and 2 columns, E1, E2, E3, then name age. What will be the output? 3, 2. So shape attribute returns the number of rows and columns. Using which attribute we can find the number of rows and columns in a data frame? Shape attribute. Next, df.endIm. What is a series object.endIm? It returns 1 because the dimension of a series is 1. What is the dimension of a data frame? 2. Next is df.empty. It indicates whether data frame is empty or not. So if it is empty, true will be returned. If it is not empty, false will be returned. Here in this case, our data frame is not empty, so false will be returned. In case if the df is an empty data frame, then true will be returned. So empty returns the boolean values true or false. Next is transpose. It swaps rows and columns, providing a transpose of the data frame. See, this is our data frame. Name, age, E1, E2. Here the columns are name and age. Row labels are E1 and E2. And in the transpose, you see, the columns are E1 and E2, name, and the labels are name and age. And the data also will be changed accordingly. For E1, it is Alice 24. The rows will be columns here. Now it's question time. Which attribute returns the number of rows and columns in a data frame? First one is df.size, df.shape, columns, index. Rows and columns. Size returns the number of elements in the data frame, but not the number of rows and columns. Shape. What is shape attribute? It returns a tuple which has the number of rows and columns. So what is the correct answer? Option B, df.shape. Now next, what does the df.index attribute return? df.index attribute returns the row label of the data frame, right? So the option 2, a list of row labels. How can you check the data type of each column in a data frame? For this, we use the attribute dtypes. It is first option is df.types, no. df.columns, no. df.dtypes. This is used. What will be returned? Column wise data type will be returned. For each column, what will be the data type? That will be returned as a series. What does df.size represent? df.size returns the number of elements in the data frame, right? So the number of columns, no. Number of rows, no. The total number of elements is the total number of elements, that is rows into columns. That number will be returned. Which attribute of data frame returns a numpy array? Which attribute? Array, numpy, values, content. Values attribute, right? df.values returns the numpy array. Now consider the below data frame movie. This is a data frame. What is the output of print movie.dtypes? What is the output? dtypes returns the data type of each column, right? So here which are the different columns? Movie ID, title, year, rating. Movie ID, what is the data type? int64. Title, object. Year, again int64. Rating, float 64. And the data type will be returned. It will be like, which is the first column? Movie ID. Movie ID. What is the data type? int64. Next is title. What is the data type? Object. Next is year. What is the data type? int64. Last one is rating, which is float 64. And this is written in the form of a series, so we have dtype as well. dtype. What is the dtype? Object. This is the output of movie.dtypes. Next is print movie.t. What will be returned? The transpose of the data frame will be returned. That is the movie ID, title, year, rating. This will be the rows. And 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. This will be the column. How many columns are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This also we have to include, so 6. Now what will be the columns? Now what will be the column index? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. The row index of the data frame will be the column index in the transpose. Here, what will be the row index? The column index, that is movie ID, year, rating. Sorry, title is there. Title, year, rating. These are the column index in the these are the row index in the data frame. Now what about the data for movie ID? See, the first one is 1, 2. First column we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That will be the first row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the title. That will be the second row. That is the main part. you have to keep the same case. Okay, data frame, Python is case sensitive, so you have to keep the same case. So these are the title, and which is the third column? Year. That will be the third row. Now next is rating. This will be the fourth column will be the fourth row. .3. So this is how the transpose will be created. This is the output of movie.t. Next, print movie.values. Here there is a correction. P must be in small letter. Print movie.values. What will be written? This will return the values in the form of a NumPy array. Movie.values returns the values in the form of a NumPy array. So how it will be printed? A NumPy array is enclosed in square bracket. Right. Now here inside this, how many brackets will be there? For the first row, first bracket, second bracket, third, fourth row, fourth bracket, and fifth row, fifth bracket. Now inside each bracket, which are the values? First one, it is 1 space Lagan 2001 8.4 2001 8.4. See, in the NumPy array there is no comma as in list. In list there is comma, right? In NumPy array there is no comma. In between the square brackets also there is, that is in between the inner arrays also there is no comma. Now in the second one it is 2 Tare Zameen Par 2007 8.5. In this way the NumPy array with the values of the data frame will be created. Next is len function. This is a function, not an attribute. It returns the number of rows in a data frame. See, if this is the data frame, len function returns the number of rows in a data frame. And how do we pass the data frame? We pass the data frame as an argument to len function 2. That is the number of rows in the data frame. Next is count function of data frame. See here, if we do not pass any argument or pass 0, returns count of non-and values for each column. If we pass argument 1, returns count of non-and values for each row. Here if we pass 0, it will return the count of each column, the non-and values of each column. If we pass 1 to count function, what will happen? It returns the count of non-and values for each row. Axis equal to index is same as we pass 0 to count function. Axis equal to columns is same as we pass 1 to count function. So when we pass axis equal to index, it returns the column name with the number of non-and values. Here df2.count of axis equal to index or df2.count of 0. Both returns the column wise count. See, for the first column movie ID, what is the count? Second column, third column, and the fourth column. And it returns in the form of a series. That's why you can see this dtype in 64 here. Here df2.count axis equal to columns, or we pass 1 to the count function. Either axis equal to column or 1 to the count function. It returns the same output. So what will be returned? Here when we pass 1, it returns the row wise count. For the first row, what is the row index? 0. What is the count? 4. We have 4 elements here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then row index 1, 4, 2, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4. And dtype is in 64. This is count function. It returns the non-and values for columns and rows. Column and row wise non-and values will be returned. If the argument is 0, column wise count will be returned. If the argument is 1, row wise count will be returned. We have covered the attributes of Pandas DataFrame. In the next video, we will look at how to access and modify the data in the DataFrame. Stay tuned and make sure to subscribe for more Python and Pandas tutorials. Thank you. That is